All right, hello everyone, and welcome to round number 4 of our 5th Casuals tournament. We are here back on Mars,
Home sweet home or something.
or something. So we have a chem colony and a double chem price. It's always neat.
And some very, very uncool carbon
Well, there's
with
one really
nukes.
nice scav found. I guess less really good with the nukes, but still pretty good. Aluminum water right there. Silicon not too far away.
And we're back on Mars, and apparently Mars has all the iron in the northeast corner.
That's just where it is. What else can you do?
Well, there's a double geo, so I'd be interested in an expansive in the northeast.
You can maybe make it work next to the double high iron. Or next to a pile of aluminum also works. Looks like Cat wants the double high iron. Hexpus, the Nomad is solid. I probably...
Is it?
It's... I mean, you can get 5 silicon off of if you grab the high as well. It's not amazing, but it's usable.
Yeah, but also mind the electronics price. That's the bigger concern, I think.
That part I missed. Yeah, that is probably going to be a big problem.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he's going to do at this point, honestly. The silicon is worthless. He only has a single aluminium tile, so he needs 80 aluminium, and that is his main source of cash at this point.
Right, he is doing a lot of what he needs to by investing into the chems, but he's also going to need to sell down some aluminum, otherwise it's going to take forever. And he sold out of his chems.
The colony was kind enough to get an electronics module as well, I guess.
I guess there is that. Alright, well, Cat moving right along. Very standard opening for the expensive. And it's going to work out fine. She is only in the one reactor. Waiting for the steel to put down the second is fine. Well, she's set up very nicely. Power's still pretty low, so the double geo isn't quite a thing yet. See what Adderfield does. Adderfield apparently sold out of his starting class for some reason.
He needs aluminium?
I guess. But even if you're going to be buying aluminum, I feel like once everyone's upgraded to 2, they're going to start selling it. You can wait until that sell-off starts before you start pushing for your 80. If you missed the... if you're after the initial spike. So it never feels like the right move to desperately grab for aluminum.
At this point, I'm liking Cat's position. If she can get to the upgrade, which she should be able to do very quickly.
Right, with the strong reactors.
She can expand her life support. She can actually try to go for those double geos, which is probably not the best move, but it's such a tempting move.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be able to resist. She's also really well set up to get a pleasure dome right next to her base, with good bonuses. There's a lot to like about her position.
I'm a little curious as to how the colony intends to grow here, given that... Okay, oh, there we go. That's how it's gonna grow.
I think I'd probably claim this 3 adjacency tile right now. Although, I guess double geo can means that you can wait a bit.
Yeah, it looks like power is not really going to be particularly low anytime soon.
No one's moving into power yet except for Cake and his single wind turbine, which is always awkward. But he still has 1 claim left. He can give that a friend, and then everything should be solid for Cake as well.
I think he's in a good spot. He's going to be a little bit short on claims because he's a scavenger against 2 expansives.
And he also got his carbon nuked, though.
Oh, okay, well, everything isn't good for Cake then.
Hexpus already having pretty serious issues. He got his water taken by Cake. He's in chems, which are nice, but he's also just still already behind. He can't do much about that because of the high electronics price and because he has weak silicon. These are things you pointed out when he founded the Nomad.
Yeah, I'm really unhappy about that found.
Cat changing her mind again, deciding to skip one of the geos to go for a carbon quarry instead. Carbon is high. I don't think I'd be interested in grabbing carbon this early though. There's not a really strong reason to. I mean, I guess it powers the chems. And carbon is climbing, so it's something.
Well, this is gonna be fun.
Yep. Interesting that Cat chose to goon the high water instead of the medium water. But and also lucky because Hexbus didn't even drop a spy for that.
An expansive HQ has been upgraded.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth going into that kind of mind game. Like in a 1v1, I think it's a valid move to goon the high water. At least if spies aren't available.
Right. I think there is still a solid argument for gooning the high in this game, but it would have to be paired with a patent rush. Because there are very good reasons to want to patent rush. Carbon scrubbing would be very strong. Virtual reality will be very strong. Slant drilling would fix the water situation.
Yeah, unfortunately going for that carbon meant that, as I expected, didn't say that Adderfield is going to steal that second geo.
Yeah, I mean, long term it's fine. It just means you lose a very nice source of power, but it also means you're not going to get hounded on that quite as much.
Yeah,
Cat going for
it's less of an actual loss and more just a moral loss.
yeah. It's always sad to let that go. Cat is going for this patent lab at the colony. Probably going for any of the number of things mentioned. There are just so many good options. And the colony also decided to be very nice and hug her chem refineries, so she already has this 3 adjacency pleasure dome spot.
There possibly could be reasons to look for a better one, though.
Could be. Right now there aren't any, so.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to predict.
Cake buying into Hexpuss is not really going to accomplish anything. Except slow him down. Quite a bit. Hexpuss is not going to be profitable. His territory is pretty weak. He's kind of stuck in place to some extent. So even if Cake somehow digs up an extra 90k and finishes the spy, it's not going to pay off. He'd be much better served just upgrading more. Doing anything else, honestly.
It's definitely way too early to go for a buyout for anyone, honestly.
Speaking of the double geo situation, apparently Adderfield decided not to goon, so Kite gets a double geo temporarily anyway.
It's a good point that you don't really need to actually own the tile to get the benefit.
Right, and by the time the mutiny expires, Power's dead anyway, so I'm sure she's very happy with how that turned out. What she's a lot less happy about, of course, is that her goon on the high water was popped. There are still network viruses around. It's going to be very hard to keep that tile defended. So water will be an issue long term if people stay aggressive. So far, it's only Hexpuss really being aggressive on that. The other players are going to need to step that up.
There is a potential argument for, well, okay, he has slant drilling, so he probably wants to defend that tile at all costs, but there is some argument for moving in some other water into the mediums to the southwest of her, and using those two claims, well, either returning them or using them for wind turbines or something.
Right, that is a potential option. She also does have the return claims already bought up, so if things get too bad here, that something she can do. Although, if you end up moving into, then that's something that's going to stop being great very quickly with nukes.
It is an interesting point though that if you get teleportation in, you can just hop all over the map and claim all of those high waters, like in the south, or like build next to them.
Right. That would be a solid option, but that does force teleportation, which really does not have much up for a cat.
Yeah, it's not a great option, but it's a funny one.
Sold.
Interesting that Hexapus goes for that tile. Okay, he returns it right away. I would have expected Cat to really push a bit more for a Pleasure Dome. At this point, with 2 people in Pleasure Domes already, it's less interesting, but they're still really strong buildings.
The pleasure dome is
241 on that Pleasure Dome.
And that's with no one having virtual reality.
Exactly. There's a lot of money to be made there.
The black market is online.
Definitely more so than this third farm.
No one's really swimming in cash. Everyone's just kind of upgrading slowly but steadily.
Right, and I'm not really sure what anyone's endgame plans are. Offworlds are still pretty weak.
The black market, the handgun for business.
On-world prices are already kind of dying for the most part, except for the bottom 3 resources. So someone has to figure something out. The trading pleasure domes is very odd to me. Adderfield is the one that took the other.
Yeah, I'm kind of concerned about the late game on this map. It's gonna be a little awkward. I guess offworlds are going to eventually be the way to go. Basically no matter what. I don't know if you want to go into an offworld early, but there are no dynamites, there's no real good way to punish an offworld, and there are holograms available.
I mean, there are still the mutinies and the EMPs, and plenty of goon popping stuff. So it's not great, but it might still be the right move. Other things that might be the right move, hacker array, but what are you actually going to hack? Adderfield is hacking electronics, which just doesn't work out with 2 other people in electronics.
Well, it might work out if they don't respond, if they just allow him to get that price high and sell down.
Yeah, neither of them. Well, actually, Hexpus does have a significant stockpile. And Cat has a bit.
Offworlds are always a little bit dangerous, I think, when there are 2 expensive. Even 1 expensive might kind of mess you up, because they can cover just so many markets, and it's very hard to find the opening to get a good hack going.
Right, definitely. So I think Cat is planning on going off-world. That would be what the thinking machines points at for me. Hopefully she notices that she's going to get thinking machines this time and uses it. And that makes defending the off-world much easier. The EMPs become much less of a concern, and the mutinies are still not great, but not terrible anymore. But
Yeah,
also, I think
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if Cat is planning on going off-world, she should probably stop auto-selling food. Start building up a stockpile of that so she has that ready to launch.
Either that or go heavier into optimizations.
The engineers have advanced.
Or both.
Definitely. Or both.
Yeah, the prices are now starting to climb up on World. Not entirely
The
certain
expansive HQ has been
why
upgraded.
life support is getting quite so bad.
There are a few players that are starting to ship things from a pretty long distance. Part of it's a reaction to this silicon price,
Our methods continue to improve.
although Cat does have teleportation. And going for that off-world now.
Yeah, this was kind of a difficult game to judge what the late game should be, but I guess the off-world was the right call all along.
Hmm.
I do think so, and I also do think that Cat probably should have gotten a pleasure dome down at some point.
The black market is open for business.
I mean, she can build 2 pleasure domes on the cam refineries, honestly.
Right, or just the pleasure dome in an optimization center, pleasure dome off-world. So many options. Going for another optimization center to replace the patent lab, that's probably what makes sense.
Off-world market is assembled.
How much no food optimization still?
The local union
Yeah,
rep
food
is
doesn't look
available
like
to
that
the
much
highest
right
bidder.
now, but if you're going to ship it off-world, you kind of need to get ready for the inevitable spikes.
Right.
Sold.
Either that or chems. Chems are also a solid launch if you can get the price under control. But those are really the only two that look like they'll be anything long term. So you definitely want stuff in those markets.
Oxygen will probably be okay eventually, but yeah, it's kind of hard to say with oxygen.
Optimization center is successful. Let the planned obsolescence begin.
Battlefield managing to get a nice hack off on
Those
glass.
dirty bandits.
I guess Cake does have some glass production, but not a lot. And that is
It's
probably a function of the silicon price being so high for so long.
Optimization center
a
is
very
ready.
good call.
Time
If
to start improving
a
everything.
resource becomes unprofitable, then you have a hack array. You do want to move into that resource before everyone else, or at least exploit it while people can't.
Right. But Adderfield really does need to find something to do. He has a lot of cash, but very little else going for him. And as soon as this debt tick hits, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. Unless he fixes it, which he isn't.
I would argue he already is in a lot of trouble even without the dead tick.
It's just a lot more trouble once you layer on 60k extra debt. And Cat should be picking up
The
a pretty
engineers have
cheap buy.
advanced our production.
Although,
Cat was waiting for it and making the attack at the right moment.
I mean, arguably you can say the right moment might be a bit later since there's still more room for the price to drop, but it's definitely a good decision.
That's true, but then you're risking for the person
Other
to maybe
people.
realize, or other people.
Off-world shipment launched.
Now they have
All the money.
about even situation in terms of stock and cash in hand. The only difference is that Cat has an off-world and 2 optimization centers, and Battlefield has just a pleasure dome and a hack array.
And there's also the little circumstance of $8 of stock price.
It's just $8. Come on.
Meanwhile, Hexbus kind of stalled out for a while. For a while, he sort of seemed like he was catching up with Cad, being a bit dangerous, but I think the high silicon prices caught up with him, getting his water stolen is catching up with him. His resources in general are just quite weak, and there's very little he can do about that.
I hate to say that he was dead on pound, but I think he was dead on pound, honestly.
Yeah, he did nice things in the middle of the game, but realistically, it was going to be hard for him to find a path to actually finish things, to sustain any sort of success.
Congratulations.
Cake, once his medium carbon got nuked out, he was always also going to have a lot of trouble. Needed to maybe goon that more sooner. Maybe needed to go for slant drilling, something like that. He still successfully
Methods continue to improve.
made a fair amount of money, but he's not in a position to be a threat to anyone.
I think one of Cake's biggest problems was that he was making life support forever, even when it wasn't that profitable. And so he basically allowed people to run away with some other better markets while he was just sitting in life support.
There is that, though. It's also hard to see where else Cake could have gone. With carbon being so difficult for him, chems and electronics were also going to be difficult. Silicon was difficult for everyone, so glass was also difficult. It was just a really bad spot to be in.
He's building an off-world now, so he is probably going to be the one who is likely going to try to oppose Cat, but I don't know if that's actually going to be very realistic.
Right, I think the more realistic outcome is that he becomes Cat's next target.
Which means that Haxipus should probably buy a stock and start trying to help Cake to get the buy on Cat.
Mm-hmm. Hatterfield has done a nice job of paying off a lot of debt to prolong things, but he was never really going to be fight Cat after being in that much debt and not having the
The
off-world.
engineers have advanced our production.
Well, Cat's got the buy.
She's probably going to wait for the launch to finish.
Yeah, there's no reason to rush this.
Our methods continue to improve.
And we're basically just waiting for the cleanup at this point.
That's a nifty move, selling out of your own stock. What if you know your opponent's going to buy it back anyway? I don't know if you can know that realistically, but it worked out. Kick actually going into a second off-world right now. Off-worlds are the place to be, but
I think I like that. Because how else is he going to catch up to Cat?
right. What I would really like is for Cat to move into a second off-world. Although that would be just extraordinarily expensive.
Now, I was gonna say that Haxipus is doing the nice thing of letting painting a target on himself by buying into Cat and letting Cake get that off-world in time, even though he probably doesn't know about it.
Right. And then Cake buys into Hexbus as well, and that ruins things.
Yeah, Cake should definitely not be trying to get Hexipus. There's just not going to be enough time for him to get both Hex and Cat after that. So he should try to go ahead and take out the leader who's ahead, but, well, you're not going to win if you don't take her down.
Make room for the profits.
I really kind of wish that these wind turbines weren't wind turbines. I know there's the dust storm coming, but steel is such a good market. These are pretty weak. Power's staying low. Doesn't feel entirely necessary.
We're doing great stuff for a while, but power died off. And at the end of the day, there are just 2 wind turbines. They're not really making bank or anything.
Now moving into glass. Glass is fine, I suppose.
Off-world shipment launched. Look at all the money.
But if you don't build steel, you can't build your second off-world easily. And that would be sad. Doesn't look like Cat's going to need it regardless. She is just in a very, very strong position. She can probably just sit back and see what Cake is going to do. Maybe even shift by Cake later.
Yeah, I think if Cake didn't make the call to go after Haxipus, which he can still back out of it and probably be fine. I'm just not sure that he actually is going to do that.
Especially now that Hexbus is backing out of Cat, it makes everything less likely.
And that's a good call on Cake. Just try to get that stock while it's cheap.
The black market is open for business.
Although he should really pick up the second one too. Is that a 30k mutiny for a $213 per second pressure dome. I guess it
Just disappointed in you.
does pay off in theory. It's 24k lost to Cat, 24k gained. It still just feels a bit silly.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, spies are really expensive, so you won't find that offroad at this point.
Interesting that Cat decided to finish off Hex instead of anything else. Hexpuss really did not have very much money, was not threatening in any way. I guess if Cat doesn't know what the off-world situations are, she might assume that Hex is potentially dangerous there. But she does know that Cake at least has that one off-world.
Yeah, I think that's what was happening there. That she just assumed that Cake is probably not going to be able to catch up to her with just one off-world, and that she can just get away with this kind of play.
Cat going for a hacker array now. I guess the other thing that might have been going on, Cat,
Black market
is
is
that
shut.
that was Hexpuss, maybe thinking she has more room to exploit Cake. Though Cake has been holding his own this tournament, so I don't know how true that really is.
I think the game is broken, and the AI didn't take over Adderfield.
Is that true? Yeah, all these chem refineries not rotating is weird.
No, I'm joking. Just,
I mean,
it's kind
it
of
is
an
still
Adderfield play to just swarm markets, although it doesn't really make sense with cams necessarily.
I guess the reason why the sub AI isn't rotating is because steel is so expensive. But it can just move into steel, and it's doing a little bit of that now, except in the weirdest way possible. Apparently the AI just really hates adjacency and wants the steel mills to be as far apart as it can make them. Anyway, Cat is
Listen,
just about ready to clean things up.
the AI in this game is unbeatable.
It cheats.
It cheats at every possible moment.
Especially the Blue Chip Ventures AI. Whoever designed that is a complete idiot who ruined the game.
What a moron.
So yeah, Cat moved into the off-worlds first, but that didn't end up really being the biggest edge for her. She still made solidly a lot more money than
Black market is open for business.
regardless.
Prepare for pending market adjustments.
I guess a lot of that was off the slant-drilled water. Let me see.
Optimization is successful. Payout.
Yeah, people never really challenged that water.
I mean, Hexpush tried. I think he threw at
Yeah.
least 3 or 4 nukes.
Yeah, but at some point the goons have stopped. The nukes, I think, were still affordable, maybe? Actually, I'm not sure. They're pretty expensive now.
Right, and it was definitely a mistake for Hexpuss never to drop a spy there. Could have saved
Absolutely.
a lot of pain and cash by just having Spy dropping network viruses instead. Made things harder for himself than was necessary.